Hey, today, good afternoon. I'm gonna read to you in the feminist theory essay in the feminist theory by Marilyn Frye. It's called Oppression. It is a fundamental claim of feminism that women are oppressed. The word oppression is a strong word. Repel and attract. It is dangerous and dangerously fashionable and endangered. It is much misused and sometimes not innocently. The statement that women are oppressed is frequently met with the claim that men are oppressed too. We hear that oppressing is oppressive to those who oppress as well as to those who they oppress. Some men cite as evidence of their oppression their much advertised inability to cry. It is tough, we are told. It's funny, I wouldn't look for that, but that's what she thinks. We are told to be masculine when the stress and frustration of being in a man are cited as evidence that oppressors are oppressed by their oppressing. The word oppression is being stretched to meaninglessness. It is treated as thought. Its scope include any and all human experience of limitation or suffering, no matter the cause, degree, or consequences. Once such usage has been put over on us, then if ever we deny that any person or group is oppressed, we seem to imply that we think they never suffer or have no feelings. We are accused of insensitivity, even at bigotry. For women, such accusation is particularly intimidating, since sensitivity is one of the few virtues that has been assigned to us. If we are found insensitive, we may fear we have no redeeming trait at all, and perhaps are not real women. Thus, are we silenced before we begin, the name of our situation drained of meaning, and our guilt mechanism tripped. But this nonsense, a human being can be miserable without being oppressed, and it is perfectly consistent to deny that a person or group is oppressed without denying that they have feeling or that they suffer. We need to think clearly about oppression, and there is much that mitigate against this. I do not want to undertake to prove that women are oppressed or that men are not. But I want to make clear what is being said when we say it. We need this word, this concept, or we need it to be sharp and sure. The root of the word oppression is the element press, the press of the crowd pressed into military service, the press a pair of painting press the button. Presses are used to mold things or flatten them or reduce them in bulk. Sometimes to reduce them by squeezing out the gases or liquid in them. Something pressed is something caught between among forces and barrier which are so related to each other that jointly they restrain, restrict, or prevent the thing motion or mobility. Mold, immobilize, reduce. The Mendes experience of the oppressed provide another clue. One of the most characteristic and ubiquitous feature of the word as experienced by oppressed people is the double bind. Situation in which options are reduced to a very few and all of them expose one to penalty, censure, or deprivation. For example, it is often a requirement upon oppressed people that we smile and be cheerful. Interesting. If we comply with signal our docility or our acquiescence in our situation, we need not then be taken note of. We acquiesce in being made invisible in our occupying no space. We to participate in our own erasure. On the other hand, anything but the sunniest contents expose us to being perceived as mean, bitter, angry, or dangerous. This means, at the least, that we may found difficult or unpleasant to work with, which is enough to cost one's livelihood. At worst, being seen as mean, bitter, angry, or dangerous has been known to result in rape, arrest, beating, and murder. One can only choose to risk one's perfect form and rate of annihilation. Another example, it is common in the United States that women, especially younger women, are in bind where neither sexual activity nor sexual inactivity is all right. If she is heterosexually active, a woman is open to censure and punishment for being loose, unprincipled, or a whore. The punishment comes in the form of criticism, snide, and embarrassing remark. Being treated as an easy lay by men, scorn from her more restrained female friends. She may have to lie or hide behind her behavior. From her parents, she must juggle the risk of unwanted pregnancy and dangerous contraceptive. On the other hand, if she refrains from heterosexual activity, she is fairly constantly harassed by men who try to pursue her into it and pressure her to relax and let her hair down. She is threatened with a label like frigid, uptight, man-hater, bitch, and cock-tease. The same parent who would be disapproving of her sexual activity may be worried by her inactivity because it suggests she is not or will not be popular or is not sexual normal. She may be charged with lesbianism. If a woman is raped, then if she has been heterosexually active, she is subject to the presumption that she liked it, since her activity is presumed to show that she likes sex. And she has not been heterosexually active, she is subject to the presumption that she likes Interesting. If she had not heterosexually active, she is subject also to the perception that she likes it, since she is supposedly repressed and frustrated. Both heterosexual activity and heterosexual non-activity are likely to be taken as proof that you wanted to be raped and hence, of course, weren't really raped at all. You can't win. You're caught in bind, caught between systemically related pressure. Women are caught like this. 2. By network of force and barrier that expose one to penalty, loss, or content where no works outside the home or not, is on welfare or not, bear children or not, raise children or not, marry or not, stay married or not, is heterosexual or lesbian, both or neither. Economic necessity, confinement to racial and or sexual job ghetto, sexual harassment, sex discrimination, pressure or competing expectation and judgment about women, wife and mother in the society at large, in racial, ethnic subculture, and in one's own mind. Dependence full or partial on husband, parents, or the state commitment to political idea, loyalty to racial or ethnic or other minority group, the demand of self-respect and responsibility to others. Each of these factors exists in complex tension with every other, penalizing or prohibiting all the apparently available options. And nipping at one's heel always is the endless pack of little things. If one dressed one way, or one is subject to assumption that one is advertising one's sexual ability, if one dressed another way, one appears not to care about oneself or to be unfeminine. If one used strong language, or one invite characterizing as a horror slut. If one does not, one invite categorizing as a lady. One to directly constitute to cope with robust speech or the reality to which it's presumably refer. Interesting. That's society. Always, it's interesting to know more about our society and how we look at others. Continuing, the experience of oppressed people is that the living of one's life is confined and chained by forces and barriers which are not accidental or occasional or hence avoidable, but are systematically related to each other in such a way as to catch one between among them or restrict or penalize motion in any direction. It is the experience of being caged in. All venues in every direction are blocked or booby-trapped. Cages. Consider a bird cage. If you look very closely at just one wire in the cage, you cannot see the other wire. If your conception of what is before you is determined by this myopic focus, you could look at the one wire up and down the length of it and be unable to see why a bird would not just fly around the wire anytime it wanted to go somewhere. Furthermore, if one day at a time I didn't get that point. If you look very closely at just one wire in the cage, you cannot see the other wire. If your conception of what is before you is determined by this myopic focus, you could look at the one wire up and down the length of it and be unable to see why a bird would not just fly around the wire anytime and wanted to go somewhere. Furthermore, if one day at a time you myopically inspected each wire, you still could not see why a bird would not have trouble going past the wire to get anywhere. There is no physical property of any one wire. Nothing that the closest country could discover that will reveal how a bird would be inhibited or harmed by it expected the most accidentally way. It is only when you step back, stop looking at the wire one by one microscopically and take a macroscopic view of the whole cage that you can see why the bird does not go anywhere. And then you will see it in a moment. You require no great stability of mental power. It is perfectly obvious that the bird is surrounded by a network of systemically related barriers, no one of which would be the least hindrance to its flight, but which by their relation to each other are as confining as a solid wall of dungeon. It is not possible to grasp one of the reasons why oppression can be hard to see and recognize. One can study the element of an oppressive structure with great care and some goodwill without seeing the structure as a whole, and hence without seeing and being able to understand that one is looking at a cage and that there are people there who are caged, whose motion and mobility are restricted, whose lives are shaped and reduced. The arresting of vision in a microscopic level yields such common confusion as that about the male door opening ritual. This ritual, which is remarkably widespread across class and race, puzzles many people, some of whom do and some of whom do not find it offensive. Look at the scene of the two people approaching a door. The male steps slightly ahead and opens the door. The male holds the door open while the female glides through. Then the male goes through. The door closes after them. Now how? One innocently asks, can those crazy women libers say that it is oppressive? The guy removed the barrier to the lady's smooth and unruffled progress. But each repetition of this ritual has a place in a pattern, in fact in several patterns. One has to shift the level of one's perception in order to see the whole picture. The door opening pretends to be a helpful service, but the helpfulness is false. This can be seen by nothing that it will be done whether or not makes any particular sense. Infirm men or men burdened with package will open the door for able-bodied women who are free of physical burden. Men will impose themselves awkwardly or just everyone in order to get to the door first. The act is not determined by convenience or grace. Furthermore, these very numerous acts of unneeded or even noisome help occur in counterpart to a pattern of men not being helpful in many physical ways in which women might welcome help. What women experience is a world in which Glen Prince Charming commonly make a fuss about being helpful and providing small service when help and service are little or no use, but in which there are rarely Ignatius and adroit prince and at hand when substantial assistance is really wanted, either in men's affair or in situation of threat, assault, or terror. There is no help with his laundry, no help typing report at 4 a.m., no help in meditating dispute among relatives or children. There is nothing but advice that women should stay indoors after dark, be sharpened by a man, or when it comes down to it, lay back and enjoy it. The gallant gesture have no practical meaning. Their meaning is symbolic. The door opening and similar services provided are services which really are needed by people who are, for one reason or another, incapacitated, unwell, burdened with parcel, etc. So the message is that women are incapable. I don't think that's the way. I don't know. What do you guys think? Write a comment. I don't think by opening a door to a woman that means she's incapable. It's more of being a gentleman, right? What? Cavalry doesn't exist anymore? Interesting. The detachment of the act from the concrete reality of what women need and do not need is a vehicle for the message that women actually need and interest are unimportant or irrelevant. Finally, this gesture imite the behavior of servant toward master and thus mock women, who are in most respects the servant and caretaker of men. The message of the false helpfulness of male gallantry is female dependence, the visibility of insignificance of woman and content for women. One cannot see the meaning of those rituals if one's focus is riveted upon the individual, even in all its particularity, including the particularity of the individual man's present conscious intention and motive and the individual woman's conscious perception of the event in the moment. It seems sometimes that people take a deliberately myopic view of and fill their eyes with things seen microscopically in order not to see macroscopically. At any rate, whether it's deliberate or not, people can and do fail to see the oppression of women because they fail to see macroscopically and hence fail to see the various elements of the situation as systematically related in large scheme. As the caginess of bird cage in a macrocosm phenomenon, the oppressiveness of the situation in which women live or various and different lives is a macroscopic phenomenon. Neither can be seen from a microscopic perspective, but when you look macroscopically, you can see it, a network of force and barrier which are systematically related and which conspire to the immobilization, reduction, and molding of women and the life we live. Interesting view, interesting read. Well, giving copyright 1983 from The Politic of Reality, essay in feminism theory by Marilyn Frye, used by permission of Congress Inc. Press and imprint of Crown Publishing Group, a division of Penguin Random House LLC. Well, once again, interesting essay.